Hello again and welcome to another Warlord Wednesday, the episode of the week where we talk all things bolt action. In today's episode, I shall be doing another unit review, this time taking a look at one of the biggest tanks that was not only produced in World War II, but actually saw extensive combat in the latter days of the war as well. I am, of course, talking about the King Tiger. Now, if you're new to these videos, I want to give you a quick summary of the format. I start off with a unit overview, going through the weapons, war gear, stats, and points of the unit in question. We then move on to the deep dive, having a look at the good, the bad, and the ugly, covering the pros and cons. At the end, we wrap everything up with some final thoughts and a score out of 10. But with all that covered, now let's crack on with the video. I know a lot of you are going to be really excited to hear about the King Tiger, so let's mount up, roll out, and dive into today's episode. Let's begin with the overview. The first thing to mention is the King Tiger is an armored vehicle. That means it is all but impervious to small arms fire. It also comes as a single model unit. This means, unlike infantry, which often come with 5 to 10 models, the King Tiger unit consists of a single King Tiger. No squads of these behemoths. It's classed as a super heavy tank. This gives it a damage value of a whopping 11 plus. This is the heaviest tank we've looked at so far. Even standard anti-tank options are going to struggle against this thing. The go-to allied medium AT gun at long range cannot physically penetrate this thing's armor. It can't even glance. In order for it to scratch the paint, it's got to get within half range. To take this beast head on, you're going to need a big gun. At the very least, a heavy anti-tank. And even then, that might not be enough. But it's not just durable, it's got one hell of a bite as well, because it is armed with a super heavy anti-tank gun. This gives it pen plus 7. So whilst the enemy AT is bouncing off your thick hide, you're putting hypervelocity rounds through the front of an enemy tank and out of the back. And it's not just good at killing enemy vehicles. Thanks to it being a super heavy, it's also got an impressive 3-inch HE value too. Combine this with the 2 medium machine guns it's armed with, one as a coaxial and one in the hull, and you have a vehicle which is ideal for scything down hordes of infantry as well. Also, and this might be kind of obvious, but it benefits from Tiger Fear. So even those units which aren't directly engaging it, which might be trying to avoid it, are going to be impacted by its sheer presence. But with great power comes great points costs, and the King Tiger is very expensive. You can only take it as regular or veteran. Not that you'd want to take it as inexperienced, but if you could, it might keep its cost down a little bit. But if you were to take it as regular, it's going to cost you 555 points. And if you were to take it as veteran, it's an eye-watering 666. But that covers the unit overview. Now let's lift up the rock and have a look at all the gribblies underneath. Let's get into the deep dive. We'll start off with the positives. The King Tiger is genuinely intimidating. When you slap this model down on the board, you are making a statement, and you're also fundamentally changing the nature of the game. Not only are you introducing such a big, powerful model into the battle, but you're also going to be making it very hard for your opponent to deal with your German armor. Most players, when they're going into a pickup game of bolt action, bring at best a couple of medium anti-tank guns. Maybe a medium anti-tank and a bazooka, or a medium anti-tank on a tank and then a light AT gun and an anti-tank rifle, something like that. None of those are going to be able to touch the sides of the King Tiger. And even if they do get a side shot, no pun intended before, it's probably not going to do all that much to it. It's ridiculously tough. And as a result, if your opponent isn't prepared for it, and they try and take it head on, what is more than likely going to happen is they're going to spend the whole game fruitlessly bouncing shells off the front of this thing, whilst it just blows them up and the rest of your army goes around actually winning the game. The good thing about the King Tiger is against inexperienced opponents, it can essentially cause quite a lot of tunnel vision and maybe even a bit of genuine panic. This might all sound like wishful thinking or theory hammer, but trust me, I've seen it happen in real life. One of my good friends, Alex, took a King Tiger to a tournament that we both went to, and he managed to win 2 out of 3 games. The first game he went up against the Royal Marine Commandos, and the only AT they had was a Piat team. And Alex got rid of that Piat team, and his King Tiger just ran rampant around the battlefield after that. In fact, the only game Alex lost was against an experienced player who essentially ignored the King Tiger, killed everything around it, and took it out with a flamethrower in the final turns of the game. And here's the thing about bolt action. Any unit, even one as expensive as the King Tiger, can be made to work if you have a good game plan and you build around it. The King Tiger is going to be the focus of your list. It's the main topic. All other units you take should be to support it, to allow it to do its job. The way Alex got it to work, the way he was able to win 2 out of 3 games, was because he supported it with a Nebelwerfer, meaning he had loads of HE just saturating the enemy, keeping them busy, pinning them down. And then he also took loads of inexperienced, or I should say, green infantry. So he actually had the numbers surrounding his vehicle, and all those infantry had to do was slow the enemy down, get in the way, put a few pins on here and there, whilst his King Tiger went to town. And if we could be less tactical for a moment, one of the other big benefits of the King Tiger is it absolutely wins the rule of rule. It's a big old beast. You slap it down on the table, everyone knows that they're in for a good game. And it just looks really amazing on the tabletop. It's got presence. Whilst things like the Sherman and the Cromwell and the T-34 are kind of iconic and they can look all right, the moment that a King Tiger gets on the board, those things are overshadowed. If you bring one, you're definitely going to have one of the coolest units at the event or in the game that you're playing. However, the King Tiger has a number of fatal flaws. And the first one is that it's ridiculously points intensive. In a standard 1,000-point game, even if you just take it as regular, it's taken up over 55% of your list. And that's going to leave very little else for you to play with. You might be able to scrounge together a few green units. You might be able to get just enough infantry to play the objective game. But whatever happens, you are going to be at a dice disadvantage in the vast majority of situations. This means that your opponent is more than likely going to get the drop on your King Tiger. And it is tough, but it ain't invincible. And a lucky shot can take it out if the opponent's got a big enough gun. And even if they don't have a big enough gun, it can still be pinned out. Unless you're taking it as veteran, which I don't think you are at that points cost. You're going to have to roll a 4+ each time someone hits you with some HE, or you're going to take those pins. And a few mortars or light howitzers or anything is going to quickly rack up the pins on this thing. And the moment that happens, it's either stuck rallying or it's not going to hit anything. And worst case scenario, your opponent manages to stack enough pins on it over the course of a couple of turns that the crew ends up abandoning it. Likewise, it's not fearless. I mentioned that Alex lost it in game 3 because of a flamethrower. Flamethrowers absolutely still affect this thing. If they hit it with the flamer and they start stacking on loads of pins and it takes the panic test and it fails, it just dies, gets wiped out. So again, you don't need to necessarily kill this thing to deal with it. A few pins will start making it a lot less effective, and flamethrowers are the kryptonite to heavy tanks. As a result, I only recommend the King Tiger for veteran players who have got the experience to build a proper game plan around it and know what it can and can't do intimately, or just for those fun games where you don't care if you win or lose, you just want to chuck your big tanks down and have a bit of fun. And on that note, we're going to move into the last part of the video, the final thoughts and score out of 10. I'm going to give the King Tiger a 5 out of 10. It is still usable, but it's just too many points. In a standard game, it's going to eat too much. And you're either going to be at a dice disadvantage or a unit quality disadvantage, or maybe even both. It is a lot of fun, but I don't think that it's overly competitive. Of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Are you a fan of the King Tiger? Have you ever managed to get one to work successfully? And what is your best King Tiger story? Hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you have, make sure you smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. If you found today's video particularly entertaining or enjoyable, please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be helping me create more bolt action content, but you'll also unlock a whole host of perks. The big one being access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, where we have a small yet growing and mighty bolt action community. And I'd just like to take a moment to say a big thank you to all of the latest channel members. So thank you to Scott Collins, Bad Bet, Daniel W, D-Day, Longcaster, Dragon Turtle, Lightning Stab, Rory Rochendale, Rev, Dan Mack, Brandon Ledford, M. Dole Stout, Andy Ramone, The Lilliputian, Effects, Matt Valentine, Sam Fisk, Ermit, Grim Byron, Lucy Bodham, Liam Bridgman, James Schaefer, Disman Pickman, Ill-Advised Records, Jonathan Corey, King Tiger the Great, Jono Williams, and The Raging Fury. Thank you guys for doing your part. I also want to shout out the latest Patreons as well, so a big thank you to James Kiddy, Apollo Stratus, Meg Sumner, The Dark Warfare, Benjamin Hilker, Charles Hartman, The Elder Kine, MP Bros 20, Dare Fish, Jeffrey Hill, Digit, Harsig Ruman, Conan Larkin, Daware 7, Ewan Furs, Jesse Tucker, Jonathan Vega, Franz Calamari, Michael Straub, and Legendary Hot Dog. And last, but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreon supporters. These are the War Masters, the people that have gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a massive, heartfelt thank you to Alan Blunt III, Bon Bon Vert, Mark Panconi, Ross Miller, Sulphur Trombone, John Stubbs, Diesel Fox, and August Varney. Thank you guys. Your incredible and generous support is a huge part of what allows me to do Mordian Glory full time. I hope you've all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.